I will start by a general question. How is AI being used in your countries to develop efficiency?
Hi, good morning, everyone. It's a pleasure to be here representing Ecuador, a country in South America, who is giving a big change in its culture and its progress. In Ecuador, we are presenting, actually here at the World Government Summit, the new AI policy that we are using for our country. In education, we are focusing on infrastructure and talent. In infrastructure, we are trying to reduce the connectivity gap in our country, especially in all the rural zones. And when we think about talent, we are focusing, first of all, on the teachers and professors. We are giving them capacitation. We are helping them to understand the technology and be part of it and using it as a tool, but always having the focus on human. We are promoting and pushing universities to develop new careers for having a new talent that is going to be strong in developing new technologies. And we are helping the professor with full scholarship for them to prepare. With the students, we are forming them since they are little children in order to understand technology, but always have this ethical and human focus.
Professor Mykel?
Yes, so I'm from Stanford University. I'm a professor of Aeronautics and Astronautics. Stanford is a university in California, in the middle of the Silicon Valley.
Very well known. Yes.
And it's an interesting mixture between a liberal arts undergraduate institution as well as a research institution. I'll talk about how AI is being used to improve efficiency on both the teaching as well as the research side. In terms of teaching, what we found is that it greatly improves efficiency in helping students get answers to their questions, driven by their curiosity. So I love textbooks. I've written a few. I'm inspired by great textbooks, but one major deficiency is that if you get to a sentence where it no longer makes sense, you kind of fall off the horse, and it's really hard to get back on unless you go to office hours or talk with a faculty member, and that's all great, but not super efficient. And these language models are trained on a number of textbooks and can provide answers to students, and I teach mostly graduate courses, and we take students from a number of different undergraduate institutions, and it has been extremely useful in getting people up to the same speed to make progress. And then on the research side, I have my PhD students, after they do a standard literature survey using Google Scholar or whatever, I ask them to run their ideas through some of the language models like ChatGPT or Gemini, just to make sure that they don't miss out on important connections to other fields, right? Sometimes different fields use different nomenclature or language, but these language models, they can see across the language differences between different communities. And this has greatly improved efficiency and also helped with their creativity.
Professor John Lee, how does this differ from your part of the world?
I would try to elaborate in different levels. At Hong Kong SAR, part of China, we have recently, the government devoted a lot of resources and policy measures in the area called digital education and smart education. And in many schools, because especially in primary schools, where a lot of school-based curriculum development using AI and its application. And for China, some of you may know that as early as the primary stage of schooling, they already introduced an AI program and curriculum, spanning across to secondary. And in my university, Education University of Hong Kong, where we primarily train teachers and also offer multidisciplinary programs, we encourage students to use ChatGPT in their assignment and research, so long as they declare and so long as they use it ethically. And last but not least, I think we are also doing a lot of research inquiring into interdisciplinary themes by working with other universities and so on.
Your
Thank you.
Excellency, Ecuador is known to have a lot of diversity, whether socioeconomic, whether geographic. So how can AI be designed to respect local culture and language while still improving educational equity on a national level?
Yeah. When you come from a country that is a developing country like Ecuador, you gotta first focus on people, especially on children, and you gotta help them to understand how valuable they are and how they really have opportunities and future. Since the government of Presidente Daniel Noboa is focusing on youth and education, we have got really good improvement. In the use of AI, first of all, we are working with a project called Digital Guardians that I'm focusing on children to help themselves and to understand how to take care of the digital environment, how to avoid digital violence, and how not to be part of the problem. And the second is going to focus on how the teachers can be part of the innovation, but doing what they're doing, but taking the next step, using technology as an accelerator. Because we have to teach the teachers not to be afraid of technology. They have to be they have to be aware that technology is not going to replace them. We are working very hard on that, on our teachers. We have an agreement with Google to help us to reduce the connectivity gap that we have in the country and to reduce the lack of capacitation in some rural areas. So we are focusing on people and the self-esteem and then to understanding the technology.
So partnerships between the private and the public sector, this is very, very important.
For Ecuador, it's quite important.
Yeah.
We are really open to the private and public relationships and partnerships because it's a way to make the development a little bit faster when we have some needs.
Yeah. Professor Mykel, now AI in the States is moving rapidly, whether in industries or in the educational systems. But how are educational systems still ensuring that students are developing critical thinking?
Yeah, this is a great question. It can be very tempting to just use ChatGPT to just give you the direct answers to all your homework assignments.
Yeah.
But much of critical thinking is about formulating your own questions, right? And it's important to use these tools to help prompt more questions and get more answers. And I think that it's progressing so incredibly quickly.
Yeah.
And even at Stanford, where we're developing much of this technology, it's advancing so quickly that it's hard to figure out the right pedagogical structure to encourage critical thinking. But this is absolutely essential because especially in the age of deep fakes and so forth, we have to look at everything that's presented to us with a critical eye.
And without critical thinking, humans will not be able to use AI anyway in the
Exactly.
future.
Exactly.
Professor John Lee, how is your approach different than the US and Europe when it comes to developing a digital educational future?
I think the principles are more or less the same. I would incline to agree with Professor that asking questions sometimes more important than generating answers. Because for the large language modeling and related data, sometimes it might be restricted or limited certain cultural contexts or maybe in some specific context. So it's better to inquire into that database to generate some localized and more relevant answers. And sometimes answers may not emerge, but it will be a very good starting point for any learners to pursue further and do research. So the principle number one. And second principle is to try to engage our stakeholders, especially children. Because children are very creative. We have to trust our university student children who have been imaginative in using AI as the tools instead of restricting them for thinking. I think these are two principles that we could consider. Thank you.
Thank you. So in your countries, this is the question to everyone, in your countries, what single policy decision in the next 5 to 10 years will most shape whether AI strengthens or weakens the human side of education?
In Ecuador, we just presented AI strategy for the country, and it goes with a multi-vision strategy. First of all, it's going to focus on education, and the second part that it goes at the same time is going to focus on make the country more efficient on their services. We not only working with children and young people at universities teaching them, but we are working with adult people as well, because we want our public workers to understand and adopt the technology to make their work easier, faster, which will traduce in a better way of living for our country.
Professor?
Yeah, I think critically on the policy side, it's important that this technology be made as accessible as possible. Otherwise, it's going to accelerate major gaps. And it's similar to the need during the emergence of the internet, right? The importance of making sure that's accessible to everyone. And the great thing about many of these AI tools is that you don't need very much to access it, right? You can access, Gemini or whatever using a cell phone. It doesn't require much in the way of bandwidth. It runs on your phone.
Some are free, yes.
And many are free, and we want to make sure that at least a basic level remains free in order to prevent educational gaps.
Yeah, for it to be accessible for everyone. Professor John Lee?
I would not offer my own analysis for my present government, but as a general observation, I think is the meta balancing. A matter of balancing between innovation and also accountability. When we use AI for any government or for any systems, we need to be accountable for the well-being, also the learning outcomes of students. But on the other hand, we want to use AI to innovate, to encourage students, and to encourage actually everyone to think and to create, and also to be, at the same time, being critical of what we think about and what we search for information. And the second principle I think we have already bring earlier in earlier sessions is that about the issue of equity. When we talk about equity, it refers to inputs of resources. It refers also to equity to processes where teachers will play an important role. How we mobilize, how we recruit teachers at all levels actually to engage in research, engage in assessment of learning, and so on. And also we have to ensure equity in outcomes, where I think AI could help address individual differences and individual strengths. I think AI have a lot of potential if we use it cautiously and prudently in assessing students and tailor-made possible learning solutions for them to accelerate and to progress while not over-depending on AI.
Do you think that AI in educational systems should be regulated differently, or is it universal?
I think hyper-regularization is something that we are not really into, and AI should be have this framework of ethical use that gotta be universal, and there are some points that are not negotiable. First of all, the safety of our children, the security of our data, personal data, and safe of the intimacy of people. So we should be focusing on ethical use above all.
Professor?
I fully agree with that, safety and so forth. In terms of how AI is used in an educational context, I think it's very difficult to figure out the best regulations there with it changing so quickly. So even at Stanford, there was interest in the administration to figure out, do we create a centralized policy just for the university, much less the entire nation? And it turns out that you can only create very high-level guidance, which is make it clear what the AI policy is for your particular class, but leaving it up to the individual instructors to figure out how best to use these tools for their intended learning outcomes.
Professor John Lee?
This is a very good question. When we talk about framework, I think we need to have stakeholder participation. In the past, I think we tend to, for university, we tend to ignore enterprise, industry, and so on. But now, I think, especially AI, I think it's better to engage more about the industrial specialists, manufacturers, NGOs as well, in the part of the process to enrich AI policies and related measures. And also, we have to engage our children and learners as well, because they are imaginative, they know what they want. I think listening to their voices and addressing their needs is also very important as a general principle.
Since we only still have 4 minutes, I would like to have your final takeaways and advice you would give the future generation to be able to succeed in the age of AI, Your Excellency.
I would like to add something that is quite important when we're working in education and AI, and the key is gotta be assessment and evaluation, because when we guide and our teachers know how to evaluate and assessment our students and their learning, they will be able to get to know whether they use the AI as a tool or maybe in a wrong way. So the assessment gotta change, the evaluation gotta change, and the students gotta be able to prove that they have learned in a context, to show their competences and not only the information that they can gather in a memoristic way.
Professor?
So I highlighted some exciting opportunities in terms of research and teaching, but assessment, we're still trying to get our heads wrapped around it. So I think what we know as educators is that the best way to assess someone is through an oral exam, and have the back and forth and the dialogue.
The interaction, of course.
And the interaction, exactly. And this is still an emerging capability, but I haven't tried this, but some of my colleagues at Stanford have, actually having AI oral exams as a way of scaling up to larger classes to really assess the students' learning that goes beyond just multiple choice or short answer questions.
Professor?
I think we need a new paradigm very soon about how AI could reshape curriculum teaching and learning. At the same time, we need to reaffirm the important role of a teacher or university teacher, including, who not only their roles to impart knowledge, but more importantly, engaging to a wide variety of dimensions we normally call it whole person development. Engaging students to reach out, engaging our students to dream, to dare to dream, to realize the future. Thank you.
That's amazing. A very positive note to end this session on. Professor, Your Excellency, it was such a pleasure to speak to you. Thank you.
Thank you so much.
Thank you.